Good evening and welcome to CYC News, the 5th of August 2013 and the 29th of Epip 17:29 AM. I'm Susie Michael.
And I'm Kamal Mikhail. In today's headlines, dozens of Muslims from Raida village in Minya attacked Coptic homes and churches with stones, Molotov cocktails and firearms on Saturday evening. Pope Tawadros issues a decree to include 3 parishes in Switzerland. The Muslim Brotherhood launches social media campaigns to boycott Coptic products and companies. Brotherhood members fire at a church in Port Said. Pope Francis I calls for prayers for an Italian monk abducted in Syria. The United States issues a worldwide travel alert after al-Qaeda threats.
And today's top story is in southern Egypt, Minya, where dozens of Muslims have attacked Coptic homes and churches using stones, bombs and firearms. The attacks resulted in the defacing of the evangelical church's interface and a number of cars, shops and houses owned by Copts. Eyewitnesses said the sheikh of the village mosque was the instigator of the incident after he alleged that a mosque in the neighbouring village was burned with worshippers inside. It is worth mentioning that Copts have experienced violent attacks by Islamic groups since the overthrow of President Mohamed Morsi on July the 3rd. The Minya province witnessed a disproportionately large number of attacks and threats against Copts.
His Holiness Pope Tawadros II issued a decision to provide services in Switzerland through 3 parishes. His Grace Bishop Ioannis said the decision to include the Italian sector under Bishop Kyrillos' care was published in al-Qaeda magazine. The German sector will be included under His Grace Bishop Gabriel and the French sector to Bishop Luca. His Holiness also decided to specify his European deputy's duties, as well as giving him the right to assign, transfer and nominate priests and parishes or churches with no bishops. In addition, he was also given the right to establish new churches and investigate problems with churches that do not have present bishops. His Holiness decided to increase the number of committees at the Holy Synod to 9 after the addition of a public relations committee of the Church. 33 subcommittees will be formed from the original 9 as a result of the increase of the number of members in the Holy Synod under His Holiness Pope Tawadros, as well as the formation of a committee to submit a research on the acceptance of baptism of other Christian denominations, which was agreed upon with His Holiness Pope Francis I. Pope Tawadros II also decided to establish a Coptic channel for children run by His Grace Bishop Marcos and unifying the deacons' apparel.
In a continuation of the frequent attacks on Copts by the Brotherhood and their supporters, a number of Muslim Brotherhood pages on several social media websites launched a campaign that calls for boycotting Copts products and companies. These campaigns, listed in the names of companies and factories owned by Copts, demand a compiled list to be distributed at mosques after Friday prayers. Copts have been subjected to attacks and threats since the armed forces' announcement of former President Mohamed Morsi's dismissal, as Gamma Islamiyah claimed that Christians were the reason behind the fall of the Muslim Brotherhood's rule. One such attack took place in the Dubai village Luxor, where 4 Copts were murdered, in addition to the murders of a Coptic priest and the beheading of a citizen in North Sinai.
From another side, a number of the Muslim Brotherhood's members tried to storm St. George's Church in Port Said during the funeral of a young man associated with the group. The members fired shots at the church and smashed a police car in front of the church building. They damaged a number of shops adjacent to the church, and the attacks left 18 people injured. The General Hospital in Port Said declared a state of emergency and summoned all of their staff, as injuries were varied in nature because of the birdshot and live rounds fired by the Muslim Brotherhood members. And from the Coptic Church side, Bishop Raphael, Secretary of the Holy Synod, condemned extremism, which he described as ruining or running contrary to religion. He said, "Exploiters do not know the truth and they fear for themselves and put others under their feet and in front of guns." He added that he prayed to God to keep the leaders in Egypt, to give them wisdom, and that the people can come to an agreement away from unreasonableness.
His Holiness Pope Francis I called for prayers for Father Paolo D'Aleo, a Syrian Jesuit monk who was abducted in the northern city of Raqqa. The Pope made his call during a liturgy on Wednesday in Rome during a mass marketing the memory of the founder of Jesuit monasticism, Saint Ignatius Loyola. At the present time, there is conflicting information about the disappearance of Father D'Aleo, who was abducted during a visit to Syria. Syrian activists said fighters related to the extremist organisation al-Qaeda kidnapped the Italian monk who opposes the Syrian regime. One of his friends said that the Italian monk held a meeting with a number of members of the group related to al-Qaeda to convince them to release one of his friends associated with an opposition group. He clarified that the silence of Father D'Aleo could be related to the nature of talks that the Italian monk conducts with leaders of al-Qaeda.
The United States says it will keep some of its embassies in North Africa and the Middle East closed for up to a week due to a possible militant threat. 21 US embassies and consulates closed on Sunday. The State Department in Washington said the extended closures were due to the exercise of caution and not a reaction to a new threat. Washington has stated that US diplomat missions in Algiers, Kabul and Baghdad are among those which are scheduled to reopen today. The State Department said the potential for an al-Qaeda-inspired attack was particularly strong in the Middle East and North Africa. Embassies closed on Sunday, a working day in the Muslim world, included Amman, Cairo, Riyadh and Dhaka. The embassy closures and US global travel alert came after US reportedly intercepted al-Qaeda messages. It has been suggested that they were between senior figures talking about a plot against an embassy.
The US State Department has issued a global travel alert because of an unspecified al-Qaeda threat. In a statement, the department said the potential for an attack was particularly strong in the Middle East and North Africa. It comes shortly after the US announced nearly 24 embassies and consulates would be shut on Sunday. The department claimed the alert expires on 31 August 2013 and it recommended US citizens travelling abroad be vigilant. The statement said that current information suggests al-Qaeda and affiliated organisations continue to plan terrorist attacks both in the region and beyond, and that they may focus efforts to conduct attacks in the period between now and the end of August. The alert warned of the potential for terrorists to attack public transportation systems and other tourist infrastructure.
Going to the Middle East, casualty figures released by the United Nations mission in Baghdad suggest 1,057 Iraqis were killed in July, making it the most violent month in recent years. At least 4,137 civilians have been killed and 9,865 were injured so far this year, with Baghdad province being the worst hit. A wave of violence has swept Iraq in the last 6 months, with Sunni Islamist militant groups targeting Shia districts. In July, there was a series of bombings in the streets, cafes and mosques. Militants also broke into 2 prisons, setting inmates free. Mr. Buzan, in Baghdad, acting as Special Representative for UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon, said the death toll for July was the highest it's ever been over the past 5 years. There were 928 civilians killed in July and 2,109 civilians were also injured. A further 129 members of Iraqi security forces were killed and 217 injured. Baghdad was the worst affected area with 957 civilian casualties, followed by Salahuddin, Nineveh, Diwala, Kirkuk and Anbar.
The US economy added 162,000 new jobs in July, according to the US Labor Department. The figure, which measures the number of jobs outside the US farming sector, was below economists' expectations of more than 180,000, and the government also cut its previous estimates for hiring in May and June. Nonetheless, the new jobs helped the unemployment rate to fall to 7.4%. That was down from 7.6% and is the lowest jobless rate in 4 years. The news adds to the picture of a slowly growing US economy and may make its central bank more likely to end its monetary stimulus program. The Federal Reserve is currently buying $85 billion a month in bonds, which helps to keep borrowings costs low. However, there is much speculation as to when the Federal Reserve will begin to rein in this stimulus program.
The US Senate has approved President Barack Obama's nominee to lead the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives after months of delay. Bill Todd Jones was approved in a vote that saw one Republican change sides and a Democrat fly back to Washington. President Obama praised the Senate for approving the first director for the Gun Law Enforcement Agency in 7 years. Republican gun rights advocates had blocked earlier nominees, saying the Firearms Bureau was too aggressive. But the powerful National Rifle Association lobbying organisation said it was neutral to Mr. Jones, easing the route to confirmation.
And onto some health issues where a completely new and unusual antibiotic compound has been extracted from a marine microorganism found in sediments off the coast of California. The discovery of genuinely novel antibiotics is rare, and experts say resistance to the drug poses a grave threat to human health. US scientists say the new compound called anthromycin seems to be effective against MRSA and anthrax. The unique chemical structure of the compound could lead to a new class of antibiotic medicines. Details to appear in the German journal Angewandel Chemie.
Research suggests access to clean water and soap not only improves hygiene but may boost growth in young children. A review of global data found evidence of a small increase in height, about half a centimetre, in under 5s living in households with good sanitation. The studies took place in Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Chile, Guatemala, Pakistan, Nepal, South Africa, Kenya and Cambodia. Poor growth affects about 265 million children globally with long-term health impacts. The evidence from 14 studies involving nearly 10,000 children comes from a review of evidence known as the Cochrane Review, led by the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and the international charity WaterAid.
US scientists say they have moved a step closer to being able to grow a complete human ear from a patient's cells. In a new development in tissue engineering, they have grown a human-like ear from animal tissue. The ear has the flexibility of a real ear, say researchers at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. The technique may one day be used to help people with missing or deformed outer ears. Tissue engineering is a growing field in the medical science, where substitute organs are made in the laboratory in the hope of using them to replace damaged ones. The US research team is working on artificial living ears to help people born with malformed ears or who have lost them in accidents or trauma. Previously, the researchers had grown an artificial ear the size of a baby's on a mouse.
And further advances in research show that a diabetes pill has anti-aging effects and extends the life of male mice. Scientists believe the drug metformin may mimic the effects of extreme calorie restriction. This regime, which is based on eating a very low-calorie diet, is thought to promote healthy aging. Metformin is one of the most widely prescribed treatments for type 2 diabetes, which occurs mainly in people above the age of 40. It is also used to treat metabolic syndrome, a combination of diabetes, high blood pressure and obesity.
And that's all for CYC News. Stay tuned on CYC for more Christian content. I'm Susie Michael.
And I'm Kamal Mikhail. From the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia, good night and God bless.